All right, well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. As mentioned, this is our customized employment solutions Echo, and we're really excited for you all to be here with us today. This project is a collaboration between two North Dakota Center for Persons with Disabilities projects, both ND Create and Project Echo. So our goal for this series is to equip transition teachers and employment specialists to better advocate for inclusive work environments, to be able to foster those stronger partnerships with employers, and ultimately empower students to achieve meaningful and sustainable employment. So we're hoping that participants will gain some practical insights into how customized employment can be incorporated into their daily work, and learn how to understand the VR process, which is what today's session is going to be about, and learn to overcome some of those common Social Security misconceptions around competitive integrated employment. So before we dive in, we kind of want to describe what an Echo session is and how it's set apart from other trainings that you might be used to. So in essence, Echoes allow us to move information and not people. It allows you, the participant, to actively learn about a topic and become a resource for your community. So each session will have a formal didactic portion on a designated topic, followed by a case presentation. Case presentations are really a great opportunity for participants to present a case of a real life scenario and to get some feedback and resources from our content specialists, as well as other participants. So if you have a person or an employee that you're working with, a job seeker, that you would like some additional strategies for, please reach out and we can present that case for you on your behalf. And we greatly appreciate when people come forward and bring us those cases. We are your participation is really the key to our Echo sessions. So we really want to have an interactive community where our participants and shareholders are all involved. So we appreciate when you are asking questions during the didactics, and please keep your camera on if you're comfortable doing so. We do have social work credits for this series. To receive your credit, we just ask that you fill out the evaluation sent to you after the session. If you joined us last week, we apologize for the mess that was that evaluation. We accidentally sent out the collaboration code, and some people ended up adding some additional questions that we didn't expect to be added to that. So this week it'll flow much smoother. And we really, really appreciate those evaluations. It helps us make improvements to our sessions, and it's actually helped us with the future direction of future sessions. We will make changes based off of that feedback. So we greatly appreciate when you take the time to fill out those evaluations. Finally, just some quick housekeeping notes. We are using a new platform to facilitate the series. It's called iEcho, which is an essential tool for anyone participating in an Echo program. So it allows you to access all the content covered in this series, as well as find other networks throughout the Echo networks throughout the globe. So if there's a topic that your agency is looking for more information on, you can search it in iEcho, and I can pretty much guarantee that there's probably an Echo site out there that covers that content. And most Echo providers do offer social work contact hours as well. So to set up your account, we'll send you an email from noreply@iecho.org, and it's a pretty quick process to get signed up. Please check your junk mail if you didn't receive an email prior to the session. We do know that some participants experience issues with like your organizational firewalls. So feel free to reach out to us and we can help you troubleshoot any issues you might have with creating that account. And finally, all the recordings of this series can be found on our website at ndcpd.org/echo, and I'll put a link to that in the chat once we're done here. So we'll go ahead and start with introductions. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, Eric Anthony, who is with Vocational Rehab. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing and turn it on over to Eric.
Okay, thank you so much, Krista. I did get a chance to look at people who were signing in, that we have a nice collection of individuals from the schools, from community rehab partners, and then also other collaborative agencies that we often see here in Voc Rehab. So again, my name is Eric Anthony. I work for Vocational Rehabilitation. I've been there for 14 years, and I'm based out of the Grand Forks office. I actually do a little bit more of a specialty of working with only rural transition youth. That does include the Northeast region, where I do actually have a pretty good amount of individuals that I work with, even from the Life Skills and Transition Center as well. And so I think that might have been why I was recommended by one of my superiors to help present on today, because I see customized employment as a big factor in what it is that we do. But the way I kind of wanted to go about it today is that I think my ultimate goal is to help understand the VR process and what's worked for me in the Northeast region. Now, I'm not saying this is the only way and an exclusive way, but it has been an effective way in getting a mainstream pipeline of individuals coming through, and getting a consistent amount of referrals throughout the years that I've been doing this. So I wanted to take it from a little bit of a perspective of what I would say to maybe a new teacher or a parent when introducing the service, and kind of take that perspective on things. So I'll just kind of go with that. So I just want to share that I'm also based out of Grand Forks. I work for the state of North Dakota in the Health and Human Services Division. Our ultimate goal in working with your student is to assist them through counseling and guidance and some paid for services to help secure employment when high school is done. But what we're trying to do while students are in high school is get to know what their likes, strengths, abilities, capabilities, what resources we can help navigate and collaborate with, and then also maybe some potential concerns that could happen upon graduation from high school. Um, our purpose is really to be a collaborative effort. We're not here to take over for the guidance counselors. We're not here to try to overstep bounds. We just want to help provide some of that initial counseling and guidance that's really going to help individuals succeed at the next level and have a better understanding of themselves. Um, so I also think that we talk a little bit about the services that we can also provide. And I think that most of the ones that people think about us as the paid for services, which include oftentimes tuition fees, laptops. Potentially, we can help with work clothing. We can also help with job coaching. And if the individual that I'm meeting with sitting across from me may benefit from that support employment or customized employment, I go more into depth of those types of services. And those types of services will involve team meetings, collaborating with several different players at the field, from DD case managers to uh, individuals working with providers and their type of management system as well. Um, Other ways that we also provide assistance is that we can provide on-the-job training. We can directly contact and network with employers to provide either work experiences or long-term on-the-job training. And so, are there any questions at all about some of the processes or things that we can do? Or that things that you might have heard that we can do, and I can maybe either confirm or dispel a myth or two, right? So then what I do is I like to share a little bit about the process that I start to do in working with students. So how it starts off is starting in August, I will call each one of my schools, and just approximately I work about 11 different ones in this area. And I get a hold of, or my usual contact is the IEP case manager or teacher, depending on what type of term that you like to use. I then schedule a meeting to meet with the juniors and seniors, because sometimes we miss a senior or two, but the juniors and seniors that are on 504 plans or IEPs. And then they pretty much compile a list and then get parent permission to allow me to come to the school. And I meet with each student just by themselves for 15 minutes. And what works well with that is that I like to get the student engagement right away. And so I have a very similar discussion of what I'm sharing with all of you before. And that once they have that buy-in and that they want to actually participate, the process and the rapport building goes much better right away. There are some individuals when after I meet with them, they'll say, no, I want nothing to do with VR. I don't want anything to do with this. Happened twice, actually last week. And so we just let them go. But I also leave with that type of meeting, indicating to them, you know, you can come back, you can change your mind. This isn't a one shot opportunity endeavor that we're going upon. So after I have those meetings with each student, I compile a list of those that said they were interested. I provide it to my contact at the school, and then the school will actually contact the parents on my behalf and schedule, when I come back in October, intake and application meetings, where I bring the entire VR intake and application packet, and we complete it all in one day. Once that's done, I also explained to the parents that the anticipated thing will be that I'll be meeting with their student for about a half an hour once a month. And I meet every student during the school day when I come back there the next month. And I think that that's really what's developed a good rapport with the teachers and instructors, because they know that I'm going to be there. And if we can't make that work, we're very willing to use virtual meetings, thinking outside the box. If students miss, we don't make any requirements to make up a meeting or anything of that nature. We just really want the student to have the opportunity to visit with us, benefit from our services, benefit from the information that we have, the community providers that we know about, and when it's appropriate to refer to other types of services. Because one of the most common referrals I do is to DD services. A lot of the families in the area, in the rural settings, aren't really familiar with what DD is and how it can benefit them. And when it comes to the residential moving out and everything along that nature, that's one of the most key pieces that's out there. I think then during the meeting with the parents, as we're filling out the application, I fill out the VR process and talk about how this is application. Then we move on to eligibility, which almost every student on the IEP is eligible. It's just that we have to sometimes get the supplemental documentation to verify their disability. But the IEP does a great job outlining the functional limitations, and that's our criteria: is there diagnosis? Does that come with functional limitations? And can VR services help? Well, I feel VR could help anybody, whether in any situation at that high school. So once eligibility is done, then I tell the parents I'd like you to come back in November, and we do a quick half-hour meeting and we do our transition assessment plan. And that transition assessment plan is whatever the student identifies as their first ultimate goal. We use that as, again, a rapport builder, showing that we're listening to the student and really taking into consideration their voice. As we move along and meet, oftentimes their minds change, and I let the whole team know that that is most likely what's going to happen. At that point, I do find that the parents are very engaged. They're happy to know that we're here to help with the planning part. And in addition to that planning, that we can also provide services after high school. I think that's the key thing, that they're like, what's going to happen after high school? And we try to be that bridge right away. And then when you can say, hey, we can help pay for a little bit of your college or help refer to other job service organizations. If we can help buy adaptive technology, if they need that sort of thing. And I mentioned some of the other ones like on the job training, just really whatever it is to try to help someone become employed. That's what we're really trying to do and provide that type of assistance. Once, once they're in and they have been working with me for a little while, we work toward a final goal just before high school graduation. And we have a big meeting to try to, I always have parents come to that last meeting as well, so that they know exactly what's going on, that we're on the same page. Because really for the parents, I only see them typically 3 times. The first 2 meetings and the last one while they're in high school. After that, it's a little bit more individualized, and if they want to. I would say that's real quick in a nutshell what it is that I do and what I found to be effective. Are there any questions at all?
I just have a comment. So you had mentioned VR will apply or help out with any assistive technology that may be needed to do a job independently. I do see Courtney is on this call and she's from ND Assistive. So how do your organizations collaborate, and do you have any success stories of people utilizing assistive tech to maintain a job or even in that customized employment process?
Eric, would you like to go ahead or do you want me to?
I don't have any in regards to customized employment. I will say that so far, I've not had a customized employment because we haven't anyone that can provide the service up in this area. And so just Grand Forks just hasn't had really the opportunity to use that service. But yes, in regards to adapt technology, I would say that most of my where I collaborate the best is we mainly use the Fargo branch. And there's been a time I've actually driven a client down to do the evaluation find out what they were most interested in using, went back to Grand Forks, talked about it on the way back. And we did end up purchasing those types of pieces. And again, Assistive does a great job of giving people the opportunity to see and even practice a little bit some potential options. So I really do like the evaluation, but most of the time it's more related to college settings. I will be honest about that too.
Yeah, so we work with North Dakota Assistive is the Assistive Technology Act program for the state of North Dakota. Sorry, my headset died partway through when you were talking, and so all my audio cut out. So I'm sorry if I repeat anything, Eric. But we are the Assistive Technology Act for the state of North Dakota, and we serve the entire state and also contract to provide services in the eastern or western part of Minnesota. One of the activities that we do on a fee-for-service basis is to provide full in-depth AT assessments. And we frequently do those for vocational rehabilitation clients all over the state with a wide variety of needs. My coworker Shannon is actually on this call as well, and Shannon almost always has an active assessment going on for a voc rehab counselor. But we work in a variety of areas from executive functioning, ergonomics, computer access, time management, mental health. So there's assistive technology that can help with a huge range of needs, and it's really fun to go through VR and do those in-depth assistive technology, adaptive equipment assessments. And then VR is great to make sure trials take place. It's nice working with the caseworker because those trials take place and we figure out what actually works. And then when we know something's going to work for a client, VR does funding for most of them, depending on, of course, how the client fits into VR services.
That's actually really great to know. I was so excited when I saw that you were from ND Assistive. I have an assistive tech background when I was working at a disability provider. And so there was plenty of times where we were, wanting to do some like video modeling. I worked with a deaf client who was going to start working at a pizzeria. So to prepare him for that job, we used I can't remember what the app was called. I feel like it might have been Go Talk Now, and we built in these scenes, and then when you clicked on the different areas, a video of somebody signing and like explaining like what you were supposed to do, like this is where the red cups go, and like you bring this information over here. And we've used ND Assistive's what's it called, the rental program, so people can try out the device before they invest in it.
Yep, we have a 6-week short-term loan program, so free short-term loans of assistive technology. We have literally hundreds of devices, and we just got a new contract to provide even more both rehab related services in the manufacturing field, working with students. So that's really, really cool. It's coming up now, but our 6-week short-term loan program, free loans, we will ship it to you. And then your only responsibility is getting it back to us. And that you can drop it off at one of our offices. You don't even have to ship it. Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to anyone who's got any questions about North Dakota Assistive and what we do, or present to your groups. We're happy to get the word out.
Yeah, please feel free to put any links to your services in the chat. That would be great. And I guess I didn't realize that VR will pay for some of those options too. So that's just kind of a nice information share.
Yeah, of course, it depends on the client and where they are with VR services, but we like to work with VR closely.
And I really appreciate the demonstrations. I did forget, you said, was there one time there was a cool thing? I was in Cavalier. I will say it was about 6-7 years ago, but one of the predecessors that worked at Assistive, it might have been it might have been iPad even back then, but they actually did a demonstration of 3 or 4 different potential AT technology pieces so that 4 or 5 people could see it at the exact same time remotely. And I thought, might need to kind of think about redoing that and who to contact about getting one of those going, because that was actually very helpful. It'd be you. Well, then this was a great day.
Yes, please go ahead and contact me, Erica. Yes, we'd be happy to do that. We have free demonstrations of equipment, so you can contact us, say what it is that you're kind of looking for, type of solution that you're needing, and we do free 1 hour demonstrations, either in person at one of our offices, or we can do it virtually. And if we happen to be like in the area for something else, if we can try and make it work in person too.
Can you remind us, where are your offices at?
Fargo and Bismarck.
Fargo and Bismarck. And you have the assistive tech demonstration centers there too.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that you can bring your clients into. Yeah, and free, give us a call. We would always let you know if like what the level of service you're needing is going to go into a paid service. So we would always give you a very fair warning before that. So
Yeah.
Shannon, do you want to add anything? I saw you put them in the chat.
Just encouraging to schedule an appointment, since we serve all ages, all disabilities, the entire state, and starting more and more with Minnesota, we just want to make sure we're in the office available to you. And so yeah, feel free to schedule for those free hour-long demonstrations, or contact to arrange if you need to set up any assessments.
I'm curious, does anyone in this group have experience with like assistive technology? And raise your hand.
I've worked with students that use iPads to communicate.
Okay. And do you have to program that, or do you partner with like an SLP to help program those applications?
We have the SLP, and then we have an assistive technology that will program and make changes as needed.
Okay, that's very cool. And can you remind me, Charmaine, right?
Yes.
What school district are you?
I'm with Bismarck Public Schools.
Okay. I don't know if Minot has any assistive tech people in our school system. Carrie, you're shaking your head. Yes, we do. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, not that that's the only job, but one of our tech people just does also this assistive technology component to things. And so we have a lot of students as well with typically iPads is what we use. I mean, it wouldn't have to be an iPad, but typically that's what it is. And we use that speech communication as well. And our speech paths work closely with those.
Yeah, so not to talk a lot, because you guys don't need to hear me talk, but North Dakota Assistive and the Department of Public Instruction have just launched this week a program to work with someone in each special education unit to increase AT capacity. So I saw one of the people that was in our meeting yesterday is actually on this call, or was, I can't remember, but so every unit should we're trying to have a person from every unit be a part of our calls and really gain that AT knowledge as well.
That's great. So do they like employ the people that are going to come to the schools and offer that training, or do they have to apply for like a mini grant or any sort of contract? Or
so the special ed unit, their director voluntold a lot of folks. So and then it's all part of their jobs. It's all free and funded. Yeah, they don't have to go and apply for any additional funding or any grants or anything like that. So
that's great to know. So we can create a resource document with information about all of these different programs. Actually, Jen Sundahl, I think was her name. I think she might have changed her last name, but anyway, she's from DPI, and she actually sat on our hub team for this series. So I'll reach out to her and get some more information about that if any of our transition teacher folks are interested in that.
Yeah.
I think her last name is Updike now.
Updike, thank you.
That's it.
I have a question for Eric, if that's okay.
Sure.
Eric, in my role, I'm actually grant funded through VR. And what, I don't know if I can pick your brain maybe after the meeting, but we need to figure out a way that we get that buy-in more often from our students. So I was just, I don't know, maybe if I can send you an email and maybe you can give us some ideas. Like, we're trying to expand our caseload, but I don't know if it's that our counselor isn't presenting the information, or parents just, sometimes I feel like they think they're part of a, a statistic sort of thing, and they might be standoffish to take advantage of these said programs. But I have 65 students on my caseload, and I don't even have 25% of them signed up for VR.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would hope we get that percentage up. I don't know if it's about the presentation. Like, again, I actually came in today just to give you a heads up that I was gonna like do my presentation that I normally do, and I just don't have a script or anything. I just do it off the top of my head. But in this setting, that was really awkward. I already picked up on that right away, so I kind of shifted a little bit. But anyway, I think, all right, like I said, I pretty much am pretty candid, and I'll just kind of put it out there. I think a lot of times where the disconnect is that a lot of times the first taste that people or that students get of us is at an IEP meeting. And it's of their junior year. And I think that actually that meeting is usually, I'm not always, okay. I sometimes I'm not tactful, but that meeting is uncomfortable for the student for the most part. So you're kind of already viewed as negative in that they don't like that meeting. And so that's why I actually try not to. I mean, if I get called in for a sophomore just to say who I am real quick and what we do just to get the parents to buy in a little bit, that's the success that we're looking for. But it's really when you get that chance to visit with the student one-to-one and just tell them who we are, what we do, what the time commitment is, what the possible outcomes are, and ways that you actually can definitely help them and have the confidence in saying it. That will help with the buy-in with the youth. I think that one-to-one makes a huge difference, because I will tell you, I mean, the caseload for rural schools was very low, and by being a consistent presence, and again, I know it's only once a month, but that consistent presence really changes. It changes the buy-in in the schools. So when they talk to the parents, they actually can say, here's what to expect. I've seen Eric's been there 3 years now. Here's what he does with the students. And that's why, it works out pretty well. I will have a parent now and again that goes, this is a scam. It's too good to be true. There's no way you're going to help one-to-one coach my kid on how to, build a career and a pathway, and then also pay for stuff when you get out. And then it doesn't cost us anything, and it's not going to be taxed, and it's not going to be this. I'm like, actually, that is true. All we want is 90 days of employment and something that they're happy doing.
Yeah.
So I hope, did that answer a little bit? Did it help a little, or do you
Yeah,
need to-
I do think it has a lot to do with, because like you said, we're primarily working with kids that are on IEPs or 504, right? So they have a background. I've always said my role is a lot about building relationships in order to get the students to want to open up and work with you. So I like your idea of meeting with them prior. That probably really helps to open up that relationship component of it.
And I other things that I've learned along the way is when I've tried groups, the students tend to pick at each other a lot. And if one student says yes, that maybe is seen in less of a positive eye compared to with the other students, they'll all say no because that person said yes. So I really got away from the groups because of that reason.
Okay.
I know it could be a little bit more time efficient. I do understand that, but I think you will see the results by putting in the effort in the forefront.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Actually, I have a clarifying question for you, Charmaine. Is the buy-in just like with VR services or getting a job in general? Like,
It's working with VR, or
Okay.
even, like the information is either shared by a case manager
You're cutting out. I can't hear you.
Oh,
This is a bummer.
and she's not muted either.
No, no. Me. Thank you, Courtney. I was trying to get out of my direct message with you. Charmaine, if you can hear us, you got cut off. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. I don't even know where I got cut off. So I really think it's the buy-in. I think it might be that presentation of it. So very recently, actually, I just had a meeting with my supervisor today, trying to rack our brains about how can we make that different, to help build those relationships, or at least the sense of familiarity, you know? So I guess I have to go to the drawing board, and I thought maybe if it's even something like creating a flyer that can draw in and list what everything that Voc Rehab can do, rather than, I don't necessarily know how it's presented, but if they're going into an IEP meeting and doing a 15-minute presentation, well, that transition IEP is already over an hour, so it might, that's too much in that type of setting for that information.
Yeah. And I will clarify, I don't do that meeting on an IEP day at all. It is just a day to introduce the service in September. That's the only reason I go there, is just to meet with them for 10 to 15 minutes.
I think that's a good idea.
And I started off very casual. I do actually, like, I don't want to say unprofessional, but I'm laid back. I'm just chill. I'm just trying to smile, get them to know me, and really just talk about the main highlights, because they don't want to get bored with the excessive details. And so I just started right away saying, yeah, we work with the state of North Dakota. We team up with schools. I work 11 different ones. I know that this is a free and voluntary program. So if you don't want to be a part of this, you don't have to. You're not signing up for anything today. I said how the process works is that what we want to do is want to help you become employee after school. We do that through a little bit of counseling and guidance during your junior and senior year. Try to figure out what it is you want to do, what you're good at. Sometimes people know, sometimes they have no idea. Sometimes they have 2 or 3 choices. I don't know. Which one do you want to do? And they'll say, okay, yeah, I fall into one of those. And just by doing that little intro, I also do a mini demonstration of what VR counseling guidance is. And I say, well, what is it that you might want to do? And they tell me something. And after that, I start going, oh, okay, so you're interested in kind of a business degree. So you're kind of thinking, I think that 2-year, the 4-year, and we already just start the process. So they see what it's like a little bit for just a small window. It's obviously much more in depth as time goes on. But if you can kind of show that you know what your stuff to help them figure it out afterwards, it doesn't take long to have legitimate interest. I won't say full-blown buy-in, but at least interest. And that's all I'm trying to accomplish. And then I end the meeting with telling them that it's about, we meet once a month, half hour, and your teacher lines up when that is. We don't have to meet in the summer if you don't want to. I'll call you, but that's about the most I'll do, unless you need anything else. And then I just ask them at the end, are you interested in working with me to help figure this out? And I'd say probably 8, 9 times out of 10, they say yes. But it goes a lot like that. That was pretty close to how I do it.
Okay. I think that's great.
I'm sorry, I went a little long.
No.
I didn't think that was going to happen.
I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
I think you just inadvertently actually gave us like a really nice segue to Jordana's case presentation, where she's going to talk about how they use the discovery process to figure out what type of career one of your job seekers was looking for. So if you want to go ahead and share, Jordana.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Jordana. I'm a vocational rehabilitation counselor in Williston. And I have a PowerPoint, and I mentioned, I think before everyone came in, that it's more for me. It's not very elaborate. So, but I will share my PowerPoint here. Okay. Wait, I have to hit share. Okay. Am I sharing?
Yep, and we can see your regular presentation slides.
Okay. So, you remind me, did you guys cover, discovery meetings? I think you might have mentioned you did.
Yep, last week we kind of talked about some of that content that's covered in the discovery meeting, really just trying to dive deeper into what truly interests this person, what are their skills, what are their strengths. Yeah, so this case presentation, remind me, this is kind of like an in-depth look of like an actual person that's gone through this process.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we can also act as if we are sitting in on that meeting and what suggestions, what questions would we be asking?
Yes. So, I do have a presentation. My participant was in her mid-30s. So, not a teenager, but the same process is used for teenagers as it would be for an adult. So my particular participant, her primary disability was an intellectual disability, but she also had other health conditions that impacted her ability to work. And she had only worked in non-integrated employment settings. So I'm not sure if everyone is familiar when I say non-integrated employment settings. Do people know what that means?
I assume sheltered workshop.
Yep. So they work with only other people that have disabilities. But this particular participant, she worked at a daycare. She worked at a hotel cleaning and at a thrift store. But again, her coworkers all had disabilities. She did live independently. She had services that came into her home, like independent living skills. She was very popular within the community. So she was very social. Anytime I went anywhere with her, she knew somebody, at least one person, if not more. Very motivated to find a job. She always attended appointments with folk rehab. She also did have an injury to her leg that we had to be mindful of. She had a fall and injured it, and it was not healing. At one point, she had to use a wound vac, so she needed frequent breaks at work. And then she also had other medical appointments for other health conditions. That's just an overview of our participant. At the time of the meeting, she was working at the thrift store, again, with other people that had disabilities. She hung clothes and she helped customers. So there was always professional supports helping her. Her goal, her dream job was to work in a coffee shop as a barista. And she also knew somebody else that worked at a coffee shop as well. So that was the only goal that she wanted to focus on. So leading up to the discovery meeting, prior to all meeting together, she did complete a couple of job shadows at a coffee shop. She did 2 different job shadows. And I'm not sure if people are familiar with job shadows, but that gives people an opportunity to go into the place that they would like to work and see the place, meet the people, watch them do the job. And then she also completed a situational assessment, which is where they can actually practice doing the work. And so she did a situational assessment at one of the coffee shops. And through this assessment, she determined that particular coffee shop was not a good fit. There was stairs that went down into the basement, and part of the job would be going up and down these stairs. And she knew that wouldn't be something she could do. So she decided she wanted to look at other coffee shops, but still her goal was to work as a barista. So we decided to complete a discovery meeting with her. And we invited there was only 4 participants. So for her, she had her vocational rehabilitation counselor, her supported employment and customized employment coordinator, which was me at the time. And then her mom, who was also her guardian, and then also the client, the participant. So since many of the people here would be working with the teenage, high school age students, I wanted to ask the group if they could think of any other participants that they would want to invite, people that were part of that student's team, their network. Any ideas or thoughts on who they would want to invite to a meeting? I think somebody raised their hand.
That was me. I would, well, in the high school setting or in a school setting, they have a case manager. They would be an important part of that meeting.
Yes.
Like in our school, we have what's called a peer-to-peer program. So peer mentors can regularly work with students. So not only do they build a relationship, you know, in an academic setting, but also socially. So they may know that individual very well as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I actually hadn't thought of adding that to my list, but that's a very good one. Yes. So what I have here on the list of other participants that people could invite would be the teachers or the case managers, siblings, mom, dads, the parents, grandparents, paraprofessionals, especially if they have a one-on-one, they really know that student. And then just I threw on a list of other potential options like the DD case managers, any other providers that come into the home. Maybe they work with mental health case managers, extended families, sometimes aunts, uncles, cousins are really important. And any other significant people in their life. And that's not an all-inclusive list. There's many other people that you can invite. But for our participant, we had the 4 people. So the first area that we covered was all about me. And so you guys might remember, typically we have the big pieces of paper hanging on the wall or on an easel, and all about me. So during this, we identify anything about the participant, their favorite foods, their favorite anything really, their hobbies, interests, things they like to do, maybe things they don't like to do. We could also include that. It's pretty much anything about that individual. And so any thoughts on why this might be really helpful to cover during a discovery meeting? It's like when you look at it, it might not be related to work necessarily, but it's still information about the person. So any thoughts on why that would be helpful? So, well, for me, knowing all about that person, I get to work with them for a very short amount of time compared to teachers or their parents or other people that get to meet with them more often. And so talking about this, somebody might say something that I wasn't aware of, like they have an interest in doing this. Well, maybe we can utilize that knowledge to transition that into some type of work for them. So for this individual, we came up with the brother and sister. She's a hard worker. She likes coffee. Everything is related to coffee as we go along through this meeting. She likes going to grandma. She's emotional. She has empathy. She's social. She likes pink, movies, pizza. She's kind. She likes dances. She liked going to the casinos, and she likes games. So, and this was her original sheet. And again, if you have more people at the meeting, this sheet is going to be really full. And then we moved on to talking about strengths, abilities, and amazingness. And again, the same reason this could be important is somebody might say something about one of their strengths that I hadn't been aware of, and we can utilize that to help them with work. So for her, we came up with, again, social. She's caring, friendly, compassionate, kind. She does well at folding clothes. That was her job. She's motivated. She's a hard worker, and she's open-minded. So I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts on maybe other strengths, maybe they see in their own students that they would maybe want to add to a list like this, or maybe just things that we've talked about her already that you might identify. Anything else that you would add to this?
I'm a super literal thinker, so I would want more concrete examples of like, how is she motivated, and what is she open-minded about, just to explore that a little bit further.
Yes.
And these are also really great traits.
Yes. And I will also add that we also did have a little bit more limited time than what a full meeting would be. And so, yes, and diving more into that would be good. So that's her original sheet that we used. And again, we cover work history. I talked about this a little bit already. She did housekeeping at a hotel. She was currently working at a thrift store, hanging and displaying clothes, working with some customers. She worked at a child care center. She worked with children, washed dishes, and then she did the job shadow and assessment at a coffee shop. So again, all of her jobs were non-integrated, so she only worked with those that had disability. And so high school students probably aren't going to have the work history that she has. So any ideas on what maybe you could add to somebody's work history who's in high school that doesn't have work history? I don't know if I said that the right way, but any other maybe skills or I don't know, any other work type things that you could add to this list?
In the chat, we have somebody mentioned their volunteering, what responsibilities at home, and chores.
Yes.
Yep. Is of volunteering.
Yes. And sometimes, you know, you might even be able to consider certain classes, like maybe they took a shop class and they were really good at using a certain tool, or they maybe built a really good project. You could even add that too. And then we went on to identify what worked for this individual and what doesn't work. And so for her, what worked was working during the week, having a flexible schedule. She had those appointments. We had identified maybe working 1 day a week, a full day, and then frequent breaks due to her injury, working with people, and then working in the mornings. She did better in the mornings. And then what didn't work, working the weekends. She was always busy on the weekends, working too many days, and then working alone wouldn't be the best option for her. And then as we moved on, this is the point where we start talking about potential options for people to pursue. So what type of work might they be interested in? So we might ask questions like, what does your ideal day look like at work? What would be your dream job? And she started talking about things that she had never brought up during this meeting. And she mentioned working at a nursing home, playing games, visiting with the residents, and doing laundry could be an option for her. But when I asked, what does happiness look like to you? She gave an answer that we were not prepared for. And so any ideas based on what you know about her goal, her experience, anyone have any thoughts on what potentially her, what happiness would look like to her, what her response was? No one? Okay. So she had said childcare, daycare. And she did have that experience, but she had never mentioned wanting to work at daycare before until we got to this particular part in the discovery meeting. And so we continued to talk about that. And as we learned more, we learned that she, at the previous daycare, she was told that she would have to pass a 40-hour online training independently. She could not be provided with any assistance. So for whatever reason that policy existed, she could not pass the training. So she could no longer work at that daycare. And she told us she could never work at a daycare because of that information she got. So it became very apparent that her actual goal was childcare, but she told herself she couldn't. And we suspect that perhaps the reason she wanted to do a coffee shop job was because the person she knew, I mentioned earlier, she knew somebody who worked at a coffee shop, also had disabilities similar to hers. And she saw him be successful at the coffee shop. And so we think maybe that played into her goal. So as we move forward, we got to what's next. We identified some things. There was more on the list, but the main things were that we started connecting with local child care centers. And we updated her plan with a different goal of childcare. And the outcome was she completed a job shadow at a daycare center, and then a situational assessment so she could go in and practice, do the work. She applied for the job. She began working on the daycare trainings online. We did provide her assistance. I read, most of it was reading. So I read everything to her. We viewed the videos. She completed the test questions on her own. She completed that. She began working September 27th of 22. She did some CPR courses online with me. I helped her with those, brought her to the actual site for the hands-on training, and she passed that. She was provided with job coaching services. Instead of working a full day, she worked 2 half days, so 4 hours twice a week. And then as of last November, she was still employed. So she had been there for over a year. And so that was the case that I completed a discovery meeting for, and the outcome. So I'll stop sharing. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments.
What was the reason for that 40-hour course or whatever?
It was required by all the daycares in the state. They had to do the 40-hour daycare training to be employed. Any other questions?
Just in the chat, Zoe mentioned, you can see there's more of a career for her when she's gaining more skills as she works, or as she continued working there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she actually made the news. The news visited the daycare and they had her on the news. So it was pretty exciting for her.
And I apologize. How did you help her with the training? Did you find another location that didn't require all of that 40-hour training?
So no, she had to do the training. I don't know why or whose policy it was that she couldn't be provided with assistance to do the training. at her previous daycare, but at the daycare she went to work at, they had no issues with her having somebody read the material to her.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of the students that I've worked with and working at a daycare setting. I think it was a similar thing that they had to go through. Like it must be mandated by the state that they have to achieve so many hours of training. But yeah, questioning and advocating for accommodations
Yeah,
is crucial.
that's a really standard accommodation to have text read aloud to you. So either with a human or using text to speech should be very easy accommodation to make. It's sad that original daycare wasn't able to use her. She sounds like a good employee.
Yeah.
Play devil's advocate, maybe that was like a good thing because it maybe was a sign that this wasn't a right fit, because if they're not willing to provide this very basic accommodation, maybe they wouldn't be willing to do these other, you know, flexibility things needed down the road. So maybe it was just a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming up at 4:30, so I really appreciate Eric and Jordana being here today. I appreciate everybody's input. Also, Courtney, I messaged her on the side. This is what happens when you give me your detailed information. I might call on you to present randomly. So thank you for being willing to share about ND Assistive. I just am a big fan of your services, so I'm happy that you guys were able to join us. And if you could all do us a favor, Kyle's going to put the link to the evaluation in the chat, and please fill that out. We hope to see you at next week's session. We have Amy Bergen, who is a benefits planner. She's going to talk about some common misconceptions with Social Security benefits and competitive integrated employment. Our case presenter is actually going to be Kyle, and he's going to talk about his experience of navigating the complex system that is Medicaid and Social Security benefits when working a professional job. So we're pretty excited for that session, and we hope you all can join us today. And thank you again, Eric and Jordana, for taking time out of your day to present to us.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and I wish everyone the best.
Can somebody do me a favor and click that link and see if y'all can access it before we end?
Yep, I'm in there. It's
Okay,
good.
sounds good, fantastic. I didn't want to repeat what happened last week.
I was so confused when I saw that.
I thought it was just me because I had forms open in another browser, like, and I